In the fall of 1975, an unusual phenomenon was taking shape. Over the Pacific Ocean, west of the California coast, an almost stationary high-pressure ridge was forming. This caused the storm systems that normally track over northern and central California to be diverted north over Canada and south over Mexico. This strong but invisible barrier, nearly 2,000 miles in length, created the proper meteorological conditions to cause one of California's most alarming periods.
You can see in this graphic how this region of persistent ridging in the Gulf of Alaska has redirected the storm track to the north. So the storms that would typically move in on the jet stream in the Pacific Ocean into California have been redirected into Alaska and to British Columbia.
Right now we have had this upper level ridge that has gone well up into Canada, and storm tracks have been deflected from coming anywhere near the California coast here, keeping the area very dry and warm through the last several weeks and months, as a matter of fact.
A strong high pressure system pushing the jet stream north. It's so persistent, meteorologists have nicknamed it the Triple R, ridiculously resilient ridge of high pressure.
The jet stream has gotten stuck in place with a terribly tenacious trough over the east coast and a compensating ridiculously resilient ridge over the west coast.
And we also have unusually warm air being pushed way north up into Alaska.
These sort of warm events are going to get more and more likely, and this may be a kind of a taste of what we're going to see a lot more in the future.
We've seen an increase in forest fires, and we're also seeing a huge impact on marine life. The blob could have the biggest impact on our salmon industry.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob.
There are some groups that are saying this anomalous pattern we've had is related to global change, but it's a very difficult hypothesis to prove scientifically at this point. Very difficult hypothesis to prove scientifically.
Your sense was that this was almost surreal because this is a problem you contend with, trying to get people to, be as concerned about climate change as you are?
Absolutely. Yeah, it feels surreal to have this knowledge and to see some number of years or decades into the future on this trajectory that our society is heading. And it's a longer time scale than a comet impacting the Earth, but it seems to me of a similar level of catastrophe. And it's very strange to, see everyone going about their regular lives. I think in many cases, not even aware of the dire danger our civilization is in. Yeah.
There's a 100% chance that we're all going to die.
For 15 years, I've been trying to use facts and science to wake people up. And then I learned that you have to start communicating on a more emotional basis, basically, and say how you're actually feeling. Yeah. On a more emotional basis, basically, and say how you're actually feeling.
We're all going to die!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to COP. Welcome to Glasgow.
Dear friends, in the remaining days of COP26, the eyes of the world are focused on Glasgow. Glasgow can be the starting point of a new, more prosperous era, a greener, more resilient and sustainable future, one that is more just and more prosperous for all people.
We must listen and we must act and we must choose wisely. On behalf of these and future generations, I urge you, choose ambition, choose solidarity, choose to safeguard our future.
Failure to provide the critical finance and that of loss and damage is measured, my friends, in lives and livelihoods in our communities. This is immoral and it is unjust. Our people are watching and our people are taking note. And are we really going to leave Scotland without the resolve and the ambition that is sorely needed to save lives and to save our planet?
It comes down to this. The people alive now are the generation to come. Will look at this conference and consider one thing. Did that number stop rising and start to drop as a result of commitments made here? There's every reason to believe that the answer can be yes. If working apart, we are force powerful enough to destabilize our planet, surely working together, we are powerful enough to save it.
I believe in our ability to do what is right if we let ourselves feel it in our hearts. So for these next 2 weeks, let us feel it in our hearts. The children cannot live on words and empty promises. They are waiting for you to act. Please open your hearts and then act.
Humanity will not be saved by promises. It's hard to believe business and finance leaders when they haven't delivered before. They have not been faithful in their promises. They have not been honest in fulfilling their commitments. They have not been trustworthy in making their pledges a reality. So, I have come here to tell you that we don't believe you. We don't believe that banks will suddenly put trillions of dollars on the table for climate action when rich countries have struggled since 2009 to raise $100 billion for the world's most vulnerable countries. We don't believe that promises made by financial companies to end deforestation will actually prevent trees from being cut or burnt down. We simply don't believe it. But I am here right now to ask business and finance leaders, show us your faithfulness, show us your trustworthiness, show us your honesty. I am here to say, prove us wrong. I'm actually here to beg you to prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong.
I invite you to look around now and ask, where are the young people? We are out in the streets protesting. We are protesting because we are angry, because we feel disillusioned, because we feel frustrated, and we are right to, because we have been raised to place our faith in institutions, in governments, in leaders who have been elected to safeguard our future, to safeguard all of life on this planet.
So to all the young people out there, as well as those of you who consider yourselves young at heart, I want you to stay angry. I want you to stay frustrated. But channel that anger. Harness that frustration. Keep pushing harder and harder for more and more.
The wolf was sick of the shepherd. The shepherd protected his sheep, and the sheep grazed at peace on the hills above the city. The wolf hatched a clever plan to lure the sheep away from the shepherd. One day the wolf took out an old sheepskin he had left over from the good old days, when he could do as he pleased, before the shepherd came along, and put it on and went up to where the sheep were grazing and waited in the woods nearby. His brother wolves came out in the open and began advancing toward the flock. The shepherd got up and chased the wolves away, but while he was gone, the wolf in his sheepskin came out of the woods and approached the sheep. He said, "Look at the rocks of this hillside and see how meager is the grass you are grazing. I know where there's a field full of lush grass where you can fill your bellies and nap the afternoon away. Follow me and I will take you to it." A couple of the wise old sheep said, "No, we should not listen to you. Our master is taking care of us and we will wait until he comes back. We will not follow a stranger, no matter how enticing." The wolf in sheep's clothing said, "But your master had to chase away danger, and you know there are more wolves, and while he is gone they may attack you here in your vulnerable state. You will surely all die." "No, we will not go," said the old sheep. But the young ones, who were not wise to the dangers of the world, were taken in by the wolf in sheep's clothing's convincing rhetoric. They thought of how meager the grass was on the hillside, and how scary the wolves were who had come to slaughter them, and how nice it would be to graze in a lush grassland free from danger. "We will follow you," they told the wolf. "Lead us to this field." The wolf happily obliged. Down the hillside he led the young sheep and into a small paddock in the valley below, surrounded by trees, where they could not be seen by the shepherd as he came back to tend his flock above. Of course, the wolves who the shepherd had chased off were waiting in the woods around the paddock. The green pastures became a valley of death for the young sheep. The moral of this story: never trust a social Darwinist with sudden social conscience. If the same people that are telling you the tale that the earth is overcrowded while they themselves are not only unwilling to get off the planet, but rather securing all its resources for their small group with ever-increasing appetites, are also telling you how they want you to help save the planet and its resources for future generations, while creating food and economic crises that will cause the greatest detriment to those who can least afford it, the same ones they claim to want to help, then you might want to ask yourself if they are wolves in sheep's clothing, and if you are the sheep to be shorn and eaten by them. You might also want to validate what they are calling science to see if it's actually scientific, or like the stories they've spun in the past about origins and peak oil and 9/11 and the recent virus and subsequent shutdown. The official stories are built on the most preposterous anti-science, glued together with outright lies.
Oh my God, it's so nice. It's so nice.
How's the family and the children? Everybody okay?
Yeah. It did actually happen. This wasn't some weird kind of nightmare that you've woken up from. They were actually hugging through plastic sheets on mainstream TV. TV personalities were hugging through the plastic and loving it. It happened. It wasn't a nightmare. Stuff like that happened. We got ourselves another coincidence. That was just the world's largest produce market in Paris, going piff paff puff up in smoke. Some might say, particularly people who've been paying attention, a reoccurring theme, so much so that borderline between coincidence and, well, things that aren't so coincidental, that line is getting a bit thin now, wouldn't you say? Well, come on, stop being so cynical. Things happen, huh? Well, let's have a look at this updated map from Gateway Pundit, showing where some of these factories and alike have gone piff paff puff up in smoke, and you know it's quite a lot Yeah, globally too, mostly Northern America. Yeah, a lot of piff, paff, poof there, right? There's some sound advice to come out of all of this. And I think it's pretty simple, really. Pretty simple sound advice. If you work around potatoes, then just be a bit more extra careful, perhaps, to stay safe. Yeah? Because them potatoes are going up. They're going up in flame. They are spontaneously combusting. Them potatoes are just pop, pop, pop everywhere, clearly. It's the potatoes. So if you're working with any form of potato, stay safe.